Koigar! Greetings, I am Tad Larkin, the lore master of Manda-LORE, and today I'll be digging through the archives to bring you technical readouts and the history of the Jedi's weapon, the lightsaber. Throughout much of galactic history, the Jedi Order were the guardians of peace and justice in the Old Republic, as well as the New Republic, and nothing was more important to a Jedi Knight than his or her lightsaber. The lightsaber itself is an energy weapon, capable of producing a meter-long blade of superheated plasma that was contained by electromagnetically generated arcwave technology. The blade of the lightsaber could cut through almost anything, with the exceptions of dense metals like cortosis, frick, and beskar, and of course, other lightsaber blades. Another amazing property of the lightsaber's blade is that it radiates no heat that would otherwise harm the wielder. This being said, however, the blade could melt through thick durasteel plating, cauterize the flesh it cleaves through, and deflect blaster bolts and other energy weapons. Though the technology has evolved over the millennia, the basic components of the lightsaber have generally remained the same for the most part. Inside every lightsaber is a high-output dadium power cell, small enough to fit inside the weapon's hilt, though powerful enough to generate the blade, and would typically be recharged by unused power, rerouted through superconductors back to the cell. The energy from the power cell would then be focused through a series of focusing lenses before coming to the most crucial component, the lightsaber crystal. Not just any crystal can be used in a lightsaber. It must have properties that allow it to withstand high amounts of energy, as well as focus the energy in a way that determines the blade's length and power output, which, in certain configurations, can be adjustable. The most common type of lightsaber crystals come from the frigid world of Ilum, and usually produce blades of blue and green hues. However, lightsaber-suitable crystals can be found on a multitude of other planets as well, and produce different colors.
The crystal, the blade, the Jedi. You are one.
Because of the lack of availability of natural crystals controlled by the Jedi, the Sith and Dark Jedi have often turned to manufacturing synthetic crystals for their lightsabers. These synthetic crystals usually produced a red blade, and although they worked as intended, they were also highly unstable and could overpower the blade to the point of catastrophic failure, or, in some rare instances, shatter the lightsaber blade of an opponent. From the crystals, the plasma would continue through a series of field energizers that would begin to form the blade within the emitter matrix. And finally, the blade projects out of the emitter, being stopped by the electromagnetic arc wave. With this technology, lightsabers were highly customizable to the wielder's preferences, and quite a few different variations of the weapon would become popular over time. Dual-phase lightsabers contain two focusing crystals, rather than just one, to allow the wielder to switch blade lengths instantaneously instead of having to manually adjust the blade's length with the adjuster dial. The double-bladed lightsaber, sometimes called a saber staff, was pioneered by the Sith Lord Exile during the Great Sith War circa 3996 BBY, and famously wielded by Darth Maul in 32 BBY. Unlike the traditional lightsaber that emitted the blade from one end, the double-bladed lightsaber emits blades from both ends to create a staff-like weapon. The wielder can choose to either activate one blade or both, and, in some cases of double-bladed lightsabers, can separate the hilt in half to create two separate lightsabers to be wielded in tandem. The Shoto lightsaber was a smaller lightsaber that produced a smaller blade, and were typically wielded with normal lightsabers in the wielder's other hand. These were particularly good for defending against light whips. Light whips were a rare variation of the lightsaber, which contained several lightsaber crystals instead of the standard 1 to 3, and no cell barriers to straighten the blade. The light whip's blade was emitted from a flexible coil instead of straight from the hilt, and were typically used by Sith and the witches of the Night Sister clan on Dathomir. Curved hilt lightsabers were ergonomic and allowed for precision strikes. Long hilt lightsabers allowed for better two-handed wielding. Lightsaber pikes gave the wielder more reach, and finally, the extremely rare lightsaber crossguard protected the wielder's hands from a foe's slipping blades. Long before the Jedi as we know them today were established, the Jedi of Tython imbued the power of the Force in the blades of their swords to enhance their cutting power and durability. With the introduction of Rakatan technology on Tython prior to 25,793 years before the Battle of Yavin, the Rakatan Force Saber, which relied on the dark side of the Force to literally freeze a beam of energy into a blade, captured the imagination of the Jedi. They were able to combine this technology with their own to create the first working prototype lightsabers. However, they were extremely crude and unreliable, so the Jedi continued to use their Force-imbued swords. After the Force Wars in 25,783 BBY, the dark side followers were vanquished, and the Order of the Jedi would reorganize into the Jedi Order, and with it, the desire to create practical lightsabers continued. Over the next few thousand years, lightsaber technology greatly improved. However, the Jedi still hadn't quite figured out the power consumption issue, which required lightsabers to be tethered to a power pack on the Jedi's belt. It wasn't until after the 100 Years of Darkness from 7000 BBY to 6900 BBY, which saw the Dark Jedi exiled to Korriban where they founded the Sith Empire, that a solution to the power consumption problem would be discovered. The Sith were ultimately the first to introduce the improved power cells and superconductors into lightsabers, and the technology wouldn't reach the Jedi until after the Great Hyperspace War in 5000 BBY, after Korriban was plundered and the Sith were driven into hiding in wild space. From here, lightsabers as we know them today were wielded by the Jedi, Dark Jedi, and Sith for the subsequent few thousand years, and saw action during the Great Sith War, Mandalorian Wars, Jedi Civil War, Dark War, Great Galactic Wars, New Sith Wars, and finally the Clone Wars. After 3 bloody years of fighting, the Clone Wars came to a close, and in 19 BBY, Darth Sidious, in his guise as Chancellor Palpatine, enacted Order 66, which saw countless Jedi Masters, Knights, Padawans, and even younglings slaughtered by their own clone troopers on battlefronts still raging at the end of the war. The lightsabers of these fallen Jedi were confiscated, and either locked away only to be found in the future, or destroyed en masse. With his declaration of the New Order, the now Emperor Palpatine decreed that all lightsabers were illegal, and anyone brandishing one was suspected to be a Jedi, or at least harboring one, and would be dealt with accordingly. During the Jedi Purge, the only few beings allowed to wield lightsabers in the Galactic Empire were himself, his apprentice Darth Vader, his Emperor's hands, and Imperial Inquisitors. Lightsaber-capable crystals that were already on the galactic market, such as Corsica gems, had strict sanctions put on them that basically forbade their sale, and planets that traditionally yielded lightsaber crystals were quarantined, and sometimes crystal deposits were destroyed. Luke Skywalker had his first lightsaber given to him by his mentor, Obi-Wan Kenobi, who had survived Order 66 and recovered Anakin Skywalker's lightsaber from their fateful duel at Mustafar. Luke would unfortunately lose this lightsaber on Cloud City 3 years after the Battle of Yavin, when he lost his hand in his duel with Darth Vader, who was revealed to be his father, Anakin Skywalker. He would go on to construct a new lightsaber after finding step-by-step instructions in Obi-Wan Kenobi's journals left in his hut on Tatooine. This new lightsaber would have a green synthetic crystal that Luke made himself. Luke continued to use this lightsaber for the rest of his Jedi career, and dueled Darth Vader with it for the last time aboard the second Death Star, which, after redeeming Vader, blew up and, with the Emperor dead, sent the Galactic Empire spiraling into disarray, which resulted in its fracturing. Anakin's lightsaber would later be recovered on Wayland in 9 ABY, after a duel with a deranged clone of Jedi Master Jeruis Sabayoth and a deranged clone of Luke himself, taken from the hand he had lost on Cloud City. Luke gave this lightsaber to Mara Jade, a former Emperor's hand who he would later train at his Jedi Praxium on Yavin 4, as well as marry and father a son, Ben Skywalker. Until the traditional crystal deposits of the old Jedi Order could be reclaimed, Luke's new Jedi Order relied on the creation of synthetic crystals for their first lightsabers, though some lightsabers of the old Jedi would be recovered in caches, such as the one in the space shipwreck of the Chuanthor on Dathomir, and in the ruins of the Jedi Library on Ossus. Lightsabers would continue to be used by the new Jedi Order in the years to come, and by 127 ABY, they would also find use in Darth Krayt's One Sith movement, as well as the Imperial Knights of the Fel Empire. This transmission was suggested by Green October. If you have any suggestions for future transmissions, don't be afraid to drop a comment. If you'd like to support this channel, please visit my Patreon to find out how. Link is in the description. In the meantime, keep your comm channels open for future transmissions, and don't forget to subscribe. Tad Larkin, out.